From this video we will understand BPCS 186 Managing Stress. In this video we will cover Unit 1, Stress, an Introduction. In this chapter we understand the concept of stress, nature of stress, sources of stress and measurement of stress. Let's start with Introduction. In Introduction we understand story of three person is given, that is Nirav, Samina and Ravi. First understand about Nirav. Nirav is a studious boy who did well in his MBA and got a good job. He was initially excited about his job. However, his behavior changed after starting work. He became irritable, angry, isolated, and had trouble eating and sleeping. Colleagues also noticed his change and his performance suffered. Now we will understand about Samina. Samina was a bright student who wanted to be a doctor. She had to leave her studies to take care of her sick mother and siblings. After her mother's death, Samina changed. She got sick frequently, lost interest in studies, and didn't take exams. At last we understand the situation of Ravi. Ravi expected a promotion at work due to hard work. But he was shocked when he didn't get promoted. This made him frustrated and he felt unappreciated. His job satisfaction and productivity declined. He also had problems in his family and eventually had a psychological breakdown. These are three examples of people facing stress in different ways. Nirav's stress was due to job pressure. Samina's stress came from a tragic family loss. Ravi's stress was linked to workplace frustration. Stress can have various causes and symptoms. Stress, if not managed, can harm individuals. It reduces functioning and productivity. It can also affect relationships with family, friends, and colleagues. Stress affects both mental and physical well-being. It needs suitable intervention strategies. The unit will explore the concept of stress. It will cover the symptoms and sources of stress. Measurement of stress will also be discussed. Here we understand different examples of individuals experiencing stress due to various reasons, the potential consequences of unmanaged stress, and the importance of understanding and managing stress for overall well-being. The upcoming unit will delve deeper into the concept of stress, its symptoms, sources, and measurement. Now we will understand the concept of stress. 1. Introduction to stress. The text begins by introducing the topic of stress. It mentions that after reading some examples, the reader should have some idea of what stress is. It indicates that the following section will delve into the concept and nature of stress to provide a better understanding. 2. Etymology of stress. The word stress is derived from the Latin word stringia, which means to draw tight. It has become a commonly used term in various contexts, including school, work, and daily life. People often talk about being stressed, and the text notes that individuals frequently experience stress themselves. 3. Historical evolution of stress. Stress has its origins in the physical sciences. In the 17th century, it was used to describe the affiliations and hardships experienced by individuals. By the 18th century, stress began to be associated with terms like pressure, strain, and force. Initially, stress was seen as an external stimulus, but later it was recognized as an individual's response to disturbances, with reference to Cannon's study on the fight-or-flight reaction. 4. Early definitions of stress. Hans Selye described stress as the body's response to demands placed on it, emphasizing that this response is non-specific. Another definition by Baum et al. Defines stress as a process in which environmental events or forces, called stressor, threaten an organism's existence and well-being. Schaeffer's definition focuses on the arousal of the mind and body in response to demands. 5. Stress as a response. These definitions all highlight the importance of an individual's response to demands or stressor. While some definitions focus only on the body's response, others include the role of the mind, suggesting that stress is a response involving both body and mind. 6. Transactional model of stress. Lazarus and Folkman's definition presents stress as a particular relationship between a person and the environment, where the person appraises the situation as taxing or exceeding their resources, endangering their well-being. This definition introduces the idea that stress is not always negative and can have advantages. They also propose the transactional model of stress and coping, which emphasizes how an individual's interpretation of an event determines the stress experienced. 7. Elaborating on the response. Truxillo et al. Define stress as the body's reaction to a change that requires a physical, mental, or emotional adjustment or response. This definition further elaborates that the response to stress can manifest as physical, mental, or emotional reactions. 8. Eastern perspective on stress. The text briefly mentions that from an Eastern perspective, stress signifies the absence or lack of inner peace. Stress management techniques in this context would aim at achieving inner peace. 9. Understanding stressor. The text concludes by discussing the term stressor, which refers to situations, events, people, or anything that leads to a stress response. Gerag and Zimbardo's definition describes stressor as stimulus events that demand an adaptive response from an organism. Stressor can be both external and internal stimuli and can encompass various categories, including physical, psychological, environmental, social, and life events. Here we understand concept of stress, its historical evolution, different definitions, and the role of stressor in triggering stress responses. It also touches upon the Western and Eastern perspectives on stress. Now we will understand the nature of stress. First we understand the stress and its importance. Stress is compared to salt and pepper in our lives. It's mentioned that a life without stress would lack motivation because stress often motivates us to take action. Too much stress, like too much salt in food, can be harmful and interfere with our daily functioning. When stress exceeds an individual's optimal level, it can have negative effects on their psychological and physical well-being as well as their performance and productivity. Stress is not entirely negative. It has advantages. The importance of managing stress and keeping it below the optimal level is emphasized. The paragraph ends by mentioning that the following section will discuss types and symptoms of stress. Let's understand types of stress. Stress is categorized into different types. 1. Eustress. This is considered good stress, caused by a positive response to a desired stressor, like a wedding or a new job. 2. Neustress. Stress that is neither helpful nor harmful. 3. Distress. This is the most common type of stress, associated with high or low arousal levels. It can be further divided into acute, intense but short-lived, and chronic, less intense but long-lasting, stress. 4. Hyperstress, excessive stress. 5. Hypostress, insufficient stress. At last we understand symptoms of stress. Stress affects various aspects of life, including behavior, cognition, thinking, emotions, and physical health. Stress symptoms vary from person to person, but there are common symptoms in these 4 categories. 1. Physical symptoms. These include low energy, stomach issues, headaches, chest pain, rapid heartbeats, sleep problems, muscle tension, frequent infections, and more. 2. Emotional symptoms. Emotional symptoms include frustration, irritability, feelings of worthlessness, loneliness, and depression. 3. Psychological symptoms. Cognitive symptoms of stress involve constant worrying, racing thoughts, disorganized thinking, forgetfulness, difficulty focusing, poor judgment, and pessimism. 4. Behavioral symptoms. These involve a decline in performance, substance use, accidents, nervous habits, poor time management, rituals, changes in appetite, procrastination, faster actions, impaired speech, and more. It's noted that individual differences exist in how people experience and display stress symptoms. Now we will understand the sources of stress. There are 3 main sources of stress: frustration, conflict of motives, and pressure. Let's understand one by one. First, we will see frustration. It explains that frustration occurs when someone's goal-oriented actions are blocked or prevented. This can happen due to external obstacles or internal factors. An example is given where someone expected a promotion but didn't get it, leading to frustration. Now we understand the conflict of motives. This source of stress arises when a person must choose between different options, and making that choice can be stressful. 4 types of conflicts are described, each with an example. Approach conflict, choosing between 2 positive and similar goals. Avoidance conflict, choosing between 2 negative goals. Approach avoidance conflict, when a single goal has both positive and negative aspects. Multiple approach avoidance conflict, complex conflicts involving both positive and negative consequences. At last we understand pressure. Pressure can be either external or internal. External pressure comes from demands in the environment and social responsibilities. Internal pressure arises from personal expectations. Examples are given for both types, such as parental pressure to perform well in exams and self-imposed pressure to study. Let us now discuss some of the specific sources of stress. Life events. Various life events such as death, divorce, marriage, or losing a job can cause stress. These significant life events challenge an individual's coping resources and can impact their daily functioning and health. Daily hassles. Besides life events, daily hassles like work overload and responsibilities can also lead to stress. Interpersonal relationships. Stress can stem from conflicts within interpersonal relationships, whether in family, work, or peer groups. These conflicts range from misunderstandings to violence and can harm one's well-being. Stress due to social conditions. The text notes that broader social conditions, including factors like crowding, discrimination, technological changes, and pollution, can contribute to stress. The modern world's complexities, globalization, competition, and social pressures can make individuals more susceptible to stress. These are the sources of the stress. Now we will understand the measurement of stress. Measurement of stress is essential for diagnosing stress effectively. There are several ways to measure stress, which we will discuss below. 1. Physiological measures. Stress can be measured using physiological measures, which look at physical changes in the body when a person experiences stress. These changes include an increase in blood pressure, a faster pulse rate, and a quicker breathing rate. Special instruments like a polygraph can be used to measure these physiological responses. Stress can also be measured using biochemical measures, which examine the release of stress-related hormones like epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol. 2. Psychological tests. Psychological tests are another way to measure stress. These tests are systematic and objective assessments of a person's behavior. Self-report inventories are a type of psychological test where individuals answer questions or statements about their stress experiences. The advantage of self-report inventories is that individuals can provide information about their own stress, making them simple, cost-effective, and easy to administer. 3. Checklist. Checklists can also measure stress, particularly related to major life events. Individuals mark the significant life events they have experienced from a predefined list. These events include things like the death of a loved one, divorce, or a job transfer. Major life events can significantly impact a person's stress levels. If someone is experiencing multiple major life events simultaneously, their stress is likely to be even more pronounced. 4. Interview. Another method to measure stress is through interviews, where an interviewer collects detailed information directly from the individual in a face-to-face conversation. Interviews can be structured, following a set of predetermined questions. Unstructured, more like a casual conversation, or semi-structured, combining elements of both. Interviews can provide valuable information but can be time-consuming, costly, and require the interviewer to be trained in the method. 5. Combining methods. It's also possible to use a combination of these methods to get a comprehensive understanding of the stress experienced by an individual. In summary, stress can be measured through physiological changes, psychological tests, checklists of major life events, and interviews. Each method has its advantages and limitations, and sometimes multiple methods are used together to obtain a more complete picture of an individual's stress levels. So, in this chapter we understood concept of stress, nature of stress. In nature we saw types and symptoms, then sources of stress, and at last measurement of stress.